Should we believe in the death penalty?
Yeah. Okay, so the gospel today is Luke 16, 1 through 13. Who would like to read? Oh, Tom got volunteered to read? Wow.
Dennis usually gives it to me. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Glory to you, Lord. Jesus said to his disciples, a rich man had a steward who was reported to him for squandering his property. He summoned him and said, what is this I hear about you? Prepare a full account of your stewardship, for you can no longer be my steward. The steward said to himself, what shall I do, now that my master has taken the position of steward away from me? I'm not strong enough to dig, and I'm ashamed to beg. I know what I shall do. When I am removed from the stewardship, they may welcome me into their home. He called in his master's debtors one by one. To the first he said, how much do you owe my master? They replied, 100 measures of olive oil. He said to him, here is my promissory note. Sit down and quickly write one for 50. Then another steward he said, and you, how much do you owe? He replied, 100 cores of wheat. The steward said to him, here's your promissory note. Write one for 80. And the master commended that honest steward for acting prudently. For the children of this world are more prudent in dealing with their own generation than are people of light. I tell you, my friends, for yourselves with dishonest wealth. I tell you, my friends, for yourself with dishonest wealth, so that if it fails you, you will welcome into eternal dwellings. The person who is trustworthy in very small matters is also trustworthy in great ones. And the person who is dishonest in very small matters is also dishonest in great ones. If therefore you are not trustworthy with honest wealth, who will trust you with true wealth? If you are not trustworthy with what belongs to another, who will give you what is theirs or yours? No servant can serve two masters. He will either hate one and love the other, or be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and mammon. The gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. You cannot serve both God and mammon, money, wealth. So let's go back to the beginning. So Jesus is telling a parable. And he said, a rich man had a steward who was reported to him for squandering his property. That's the same word that was used for the prodigal son. That word in the Greek, that's the same word. So this is a manager who would do like the accounting. He'd be in charge of managing all the funds of the owner. And the owner wanted him, he said, we're going to have an audit of what you're doing because you're squandering like the prodigal son on who knows what, and so he wanted to audit what he's doing. And so prepare a full account of your stewardship because you can no longer be my steward. So we're going to hear this and we might think, oh, he gets praised a little bit later on, but it doesn't mean he keeps his job, right? He's just praising the fact that he was shrewd in what he did. The guy actually assesses himself. He says, I'm too weak to dig. I'm not strong. I can't do any physical labor. And I'm too proud to beg. I can't go asking for things because I'm too proud and I'm too weak. So what can I do? I can try to get these people that I'm dealing with, I'll try to make friends with them by cutting them some slack. And maybe after I get fired from this job, I'll be welcomed into their home. So what is he doing here? The first one, he says 100 measures of olive oil. He says, here's your promissory note. Sit down and quickly write one for 50. So sometimes, so what the rabbinic tradition is that he canceled his commission. So as a steward, he would get a commission on, let's say they had olive oil that was owed. So there was also usury interest. So you might have like credit cards are today, 30% or whatever they're charging. So he eliminated the credit card, the high interest, which is usury, and he eliminated his commission. And so the guy's getting, he has to pay 50, but he's just cutting out that. I mean, that would have been the original debt. And if you think about it, when people get, like credit card debt, they may have 1,000 and it ends up being 3,000, 2,000 in interest. So he's saying, you can cut out all this other stuff. Same thing with the other guy. The master commended him for acting prudently. So he's praising his prudence, not his evil, right? He's praising the fact that he was prudent.
I don't understand that, because we don't have enough information. We don't know that those people were intending to pay or not intending to pay. If they had the ability and the means and the intent to pay their debts off, then why would he be called prudent?
He's prudent because he got him to do something right away.
It doesn't say that they paid, he dropped the interest or the debt from 100.
He did. It does. It says he went
50
from.
courts, but it doesn't mean that he paid for the 50.
No, the guy isn't going to pay for the 50. He's cutting that off. And so what he's doing is he's making friends with the people that owed the owner debt.
And that,
Right.
I don't know that we can.
No, we can't. What I'm saying is this is some of the, the tradition behind it, because this is the kind of thing that would happen at that time, as there would be like charging. They would have high charges for interest. They would have high charges. So some of the church fathers, they actually said these are some of the things that might have been looked at for that. And so that's what I'm pulling up. He's just being prudent. The steward is acting prudently because he's trying to make friends with the owner's debtors. And so the owner actually commended him, and he said, well, you're acting prudently. And then it's Jesus saying, people that handle money act prudently. They act smart. Why aren't we acting this way when we're trying to build up riches in heaven? Why are we acting ignorantly for the things of God when we act prudently for the things of, material wealth? We try to save a buck by going to the store, and we try to, why aren't we building up treasures in heaven the same way? Why aren't we acting in a manner that's building up the spiritual treasures that we have? And so it's not anything in terms of, like this guy, basically cheating or being evil or anything else. He's just saying he's being prudent.
He's been prudent with the owner's goods.
Yeah. So that's what he's praising. He's praising prudence. And so when people are prudent, that's, God is saying, why aren't you being prudent with the things of God? You're being prudent with the things of the world, but you're not being prudent with the things of God. And so he says, for the children of the world are more prudent in dealing with their own generation than are the children of light. That's the whole point. And so everything else is, this is just speculation. And you can agree with it or you can't. But the guy was acting prudently because he was working a way that he could get favor with these people in the future. And so that was actually, he did a good self-assessment too. So, you can look at the steward and you can say, well, at least he was honest about himself. I'm too weak and I'm too proud. And then he figured out a way in order to have a way to live in the future. And so the owner said, well, that was pretty prudent of you. And Jesus is just saying this parable, which is just a story to tell the people, look, you guys save a buck when it comes down to, going to buy a camel skin here or something. You're going to negotiate, the best price on something. Why aren't you trying to build up treasures in heaven the same way? And that's the next point that he brings up, is that make friends with yourself dishonest wealth, so that when it fails, and it will fail, it says when it fails. It doesn't, it's not even it will fail, because it's going to either fail by your death or collapse. You will be welcomed into eternal dwellings. So I think it's important that we've been given wealth. We need to give alms too. So the use of our wealth is a training ground for us, really. It should be the things we're given. We're called to be just stewards of them. We're called to be prudent We're called to give. We're called to, not hoard. And because if that becomes your idol or your God, then that becomes, you're probably going to hell. If that's your God, you'll be in hell forever for it.
When that Pro Hardware was in Belleville, they went out of business, but a few years before they went out of business, he called a friend of mine who had his own business too. He said, I'll give you a huge discount if you pay it off now. He almost ran out of that restaurant to went over there and pay the debt off. He had a big discount. And that helped him out. He wanted to get that money because he was struggling.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I think the whole point is that it's not, why cut the debt or how we cut the debt, but it's just we need to be smart in spiritual things like we are in material things. Is there anyone here that hasn't tried to get a better deal on something? You? We all have, right? Yeah, every one of us here, I'm sure.
Free shipping.
Yeah, free shipping. You get it, you get it on Prime Day or something, everything. And there's not anybody here that probably doesn't try to get a good deal on something. But and we're saving, we're building up wealth here on earth. But the point Jesus is making, we need to be building up treasures in heaven. Are we doing that? Are we doing the spiritual and corporal works of mercy that we're called to do? And he said, the person who is trustworthy in small matters, and in Jesus' mind, anything with money is a small matter, right? It's irrelevant. In the overall use of things, but it's a training ground for us. We're called to use the gifts that God gave us wisely. We're called not to squander it and waste it, because God's giving us these things, and there's people who need it. And are we helping people? And that's the question. If therefore you are not trustworthy in dishonest wealth, who will trust you with true wealth? No servant can serve two masters.
Who are the children of light?
All are Christians, yeah.
Are more prudent dealing with their own generation than are the children of light.
That's the Christians, yeah, that's us. Children of light, that's the children of Christ. Christ is the light. So what are we doing? Are we building up treasures in heaven, or are we building up coals in hell? That's kind of really what it boils down to. Are we piling coals on our head, or are we, building up treasures in heaven? And he goes on, this is kind of alarming. It says, no servant can serve two masters. He will either hate one and love the other. And if you look at Amos, what were they? They hated their religion because it cut into their profits, right? They hated it. Sunday? What do you mean Sunday we can't work? That's crazy. Why would we waste that? That's 1/7 of our income. I could be, look at the profits I'm losing every Sunday. That's, they hate the religion. Why do they have these churches shutting down the economy? Production must go on. And so we're either going to hate one and love the other, or be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and mammon. So do we serve both God and mammon? We should be we cannot serve both God and mammon. So who are we serving? Who will you serve?
We want to serve.
And that's where it says, as for me and my house, I will serve the Lord, right? And that's where, and if it's not, that's why when you read this gospel and you think about it and you think, well, what's bothering me? What's on my mind? What am I concerned about? Am I concerned about prayers, or am I concerned about things? And that should really strike you, and it should put fear in your heart. What am I doing here? What's this all about? And you're not guaranteed one more day. And so, and for all of us, this is something. 5 years, it won't matter as much, 10 years. When you're dead, what does any of it mean? It means nothing. But we have to think about that. It's good. We need to be helping others. So this isn't, I mean, especially in America, this should strike the fear into all of us because that's, that's what it pushes. Greed is good.
All these assassinations, all